The four-day ceasefire is behind us, and the front, as if catching its breath, has lurched back into motion. Across multiple directions simultaneously, and in some places the changes are substantial. The Kostyantynivka direction is arguably the hottest point today. A situation is developing there in which the AFU grouping risks finding itself operationally encircled. On the Zaparizia sector, for the first time in many months, genuinely good news has come in. The Sloviansk and Helopole directions also have plenty to discuss. And at the end, a few words on Ukrainian domestic affairs. The Yermak story is getting more interesting by the day. Let's go through it in order. The ceasefire, what it actually was. Start with the obvious. 4 days of ceasefire played out the way these things usually do. Formally. Artillery kept firing, drones kept flying, casualties occurred on both sides. The one thing that genuinely slowed down was large-scale assault operations. Neither the Russian army nor the AFU launched significant ground attacks during that window. But the moment the ceasefire expired, everything started moving again, and within hours. This matters to understand. A ceasefire under current conditions is not silence. It's a short pause before the next round. Both sides used it to regroup, bring up reserves, rotate units. That's now visible in the pace of events. The moment the restrictions lifted, the front made itself heard. Kupansk direction, left bank of the Oskil, movement confirmed. Before moving to the hotspots, it's worth taking stock of the Kupansk sector, because a lot of questions have piled up there lately, including questions about the quality of information coming from the Russian Ministry of Defense. The problem has been raised before. Settlements are declared captured the moment the first groups enter them, before any stable control is established, before clearing operations, and sometimes while AFU forces are still present. Kupiansk, Vuzlovye, Kovsharivka, Novusina, these are all examples of official statements running well ahead of the actual picture on the ground. The result is what we have. Kupiansk still in a grey zone, not under Russian control. That said, on the left bank of the Oskil River, the past 24 hours have produced confirmed movement. The pocket near Novusine, the one with the narrow exit corridor discussed here a few days ago, has been cleared. Russian troops advanced more than 4.5 kilometers west from the east. That's not a tactical nibble, that's a meaningful result. The assault on Novusine itself continues. Given the dynamics of recent days, not spectacular breakthroughs but steady progress, cautious optimism about the left bank of the Oskil is warranted. Sloviansk direction, confirmed advance to the outskirts of Oleksandrivka. Now the Sloviansk direction, where there are concrete numbers backed by objective control footage. Units of the southern grouping advanced more than 3 kilometers and reached the immediate eastern approaches to Oleksandrivka. Why this matters, worth repeating, because the significance of this settlement is hard to overstate. Oleksandrivka is the key to Mykolaiivka. As long as it holds, the AFU maintain a stable defensive position on this sector and retain room to maneuver. Once Oleksandrivka comes under Russian control, the road to Mykolaiivka opens up, and the timeline for fighting over that city shifts from abstract to concrete. Right now, just over a kilometer remains to Oleksandrivka, from the east, roughly 1,200 meters. To the north, Kryvyi Luki is already under Russian control, meaning pressure will increase from that flank. To the south, Russian forces control a key road junction. An enveloping configuration is taking shape. Estimated assessment: if the current pace holds and no serious counterattacks materialize, the fortified area could be taken within a month. Accordingly, fighting for Mykolaiivka can realistically be expected by mid to late July. Separately, footage came in from the adjacent Kramatorsk direction. Russian drone operators struck a group of Ukrainian troops moving along a trench. The recording shows a hit and apparently casualties. One AFU soldier remained motionless after the strike. A second withdrew without rendering any assistance. Difficult footage, but that's the reality of this war. Also worth noting, the bridgehead on the left bank of the Siversky Donets, which the Western grouping managed to seize and hold, remains under serious AFU pressure. Even during the ceasefire period, the Ukrainian side did not stop assault operations near Tatyánivka and Prysib. These were not reconnaissance probes, but full-scale attempts to push Russian troops off the bridgehead. They didn't succeed. The positions have held, but at great cost. That needs to be understood. Holding a bridgehead under that level of pressure is a result in itself. Kostyantynivka direction. The threat of encirclement is becoming real. Now, the most serious item. The Kostyantynivka direction is arguably the most critical sector for the AFU today. The situation here is developing rapidly, and its logic is such that if the current dynamics hold, the Ukrainian grouping in the Kostyantynivka area risks finding itself in an operational encirclement. Let's break it down. Dovha Balka and Ilinivka. On the southern flank, intense fighting continues in Dovha Balka and its surroundings. Simultaneously, heavy clashes are ongoing near Ilinivka. Significant quantities of video footage showing Russian military presence have come in from this area over the past few days. Today, information arrived, not yet fully confirmed, but from a reasonably authoritative source, that the Russian-controlled zone has expanded approximately 1 kilometer north of Ilinivka. If this is confirmed, the map will be updated accordingly. For now, the coloring has been applied in favor of the Russian army. Molocharka and the advance east of Kostyantynivka. Here, the information is confirmed and backed by video. Russian troops advanced 2.5 kilometers east of Kostyantynivka and dug into residential areas of Molocharka. This is significant for several reasons. First, it means that Novodneprivka, whose capture was announced by the Russian MOD earlier without much supporting evidence, is now unambiguously under Russian control. The advance to Molocharka makes this clear beyond doubt. Second, Molocharka has a direct bearing on the supply road through which the AFU maintained their Kostyantynivka grouping. The encirclement threat. Looking at the map as a whole, the picture is as follows. Russian forces are advancing from the flanks, from the south via Ilinivka, from the east via Molocharka. The supply road sustaining the AFU's Kostyantynivka grouping runs through precisely the corridor that these two vectors of advance are gradually compressing. If Russian forces physically reach that road, Ukrainian troops end up in a cauldron. Not an operational ring, a classic encirclement with cut-off lines of retreat and resupply. For now, this is a scenario, not an accomplished fact. The situation requires continued monitoring. The AFU obviously understand the danger and will attempt either a counterattack or a partial withdrawal. But the geometry right now is clearly not working in their favor. Yar. AFU pressing, no results. Briefly on Chasiv Yar, Russian forces control the settlement, that's established. The Ukrainian side continues attempts to retake certain blocks, primarily on the southern outskirts. Fighting there has been going on for days without let-up at high intensity. However, no confirmed AFU advance has been recorded as of today. If and when that changes, the map will be updated. Notably, news from here comes in almost daily. That means the situation is live and demands constant monitoring. Waiting on video. Zaparizia direction, the first real success in 2 months. Now, something that hasn't been said about the Zaparizia sector in a long time. For the first time in roughly 2 months, news from there can genuinely be called positive. For context, the Zaparizia direction is currently the AFU's main offensive axis. Significant Ukrainian forces are concentrated here, divided across 3 approximate sectors: Primorske, Stepnohirsk, and the sector east of Stepnohirsk, Lukianivske, Novayakivlivka, Pavlivka. It's that last sector where something notable happened. In April, the AFU pushed Russian forces out of Novayakivlivka, Novoboykivska, Lukianivska, and entered Pavlivka. The situation looked threatening. Given the scale of forces involved, the Ukrainian side reportedly concentrated up to 40% of their entire drone systems grouping here, plus substantial infantry transferred from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. It seemed the pressure would keep building. The question was whether the Stepny Mali-Sherbaki line could be held. The Dnipro grouping delivered a surprise. They didn't just stop the retreat, they counterattacked. Pavlivka has been returned to stable Russian control. Beyond that, AFU forces were pushed back more than 2 kilometers from Pavlivka, and Russian troops re-entered Novayakivlivka, firmly consolidating in the southern part of the village. the situation has flipped 180 degrees. Those who are retreating are now advancing, and the adversary is falling back. To repeat, these are the first genuinely good news from the Zaparizia direction in approximately 2 months. That said, no excessive optimism. This is a success on one subsector, not a turning point across the entire direction. On Primorske, nothing positive. At Stepnohirsk, the situation remains difficult. The AFU have a serious concentration of forces here and will unquestionably attempt to recover what was lost. Most likely, the coming days will bring back and forth. Whether Russian troops can hold the recaptured positions and build on the success, or whether they'll be pushed back again in a few days, that's an open question. We'll see within the next week. But the fact that the trend was broken, that already matters. Helopole direction, control zone. Expanding but with complications. From the Helopole direction comes a mixed picture, progress in some places, setbacks in others. Start with what's confirmed. Russian troops continue to hold positions taken near Zdvizhivka and are expanding their control zone along the Pryluki-Zdvizhivka line. The map was updated here yesterday. Today, 2 video clips from specific geo-referenced points provide additional confirmation. The territory marked in red has passed under Russian army control. At the same time, intense fighting continues around Chervone. Russian forces are working against AFU positions in Helopole itself, but no confirmed advance has been recorded there today. Now, the unwelcome news. Information has come in from Rizhdianka indicating that the AFU control zone has expanded by approximately 900 meters. As a reminder, it was reported earlier that Russian forces were compelled to pull back slightly here, not because they couldn't hold the positions militarily, but to reduce casualties from enemy FPV drones. According to current data, the majority of Rizhdianka is under AFU control. The territory is marked as temporarily under Ukrainian control. The map will be corrected as additional information comes in. Overall assessment of the direction, the situation is uneven. Where Russian troops have consolidated and established a line, they're holding. Where positions were initially vulnerable to the drone threat, there are tactical withdrawals. This is a characteristic pattern for this sector. Daily summary, 20.8 square kilometers. The territorial balance for the past 24 hours breaks down as follows. No AFU advances recorded. 20.8 square kilometers passed under Russian control. These are the first results of the first day after the ceasefire's expiration, and the front delivered immediately. Whether this pace proves sustainable over the coming days remains to be seen. Ukrainian domestic affairs, Yermak, Nabu, and corruption at the top. A few words now on what's happening in Ukraine's internal political space, because a story is unfolding there that can't be ignored. Andriy Yermak, the long-standing head of the office of the President of Ukraine, widely regarded as the second most powerful figure in the country after Zelensky, has become the subject of a criminal case. The investigation is being conducted by NABU, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. According to available information, the investigation has produced recordings containing highly serious incriminating material. Several questions immediately arise, none of which have clear answers yet. First, is this case real, or is it theater? Ukrainian politics in recent years has seen no shortage of situations where criminal proceedings were launched not to achieve actual accountability, but to apply political pressure or redirect public attention. The case against Yermak is not immune from that possibility. Second, who is behind it? The theories vary. One holds that Zelensky himself handed over his closest associate, attempting to deflect pressure from himself amid mounting criticism and societal fatigue. Another points to American influence. Washington supposedly seeking to leverage criminal pressure on Yermak as a way of influencing the policy of the presidential office. Both versions have some foundation, and both remain speculation for now. Third, the most practical question, will it go anywhere? The Ukrainian legal system has demonstrated, more than once, its equal capacity for launching high-profile cases and quietly shelving them. Yermak is not just an official, he is a man with an enormous web of connections, resources and, by all appearances, compromising material on those currently playing against him. We'll see. What can be said with confidence? The information agenda in Ukraine has shifted. Zelensky has briefly dropped out of the spotlight. Everyone is talking about Yermak. Whether this is to the president's personal advantage, or whether it represents a genuine attempt to tackle corruption at the very top of the power structure, that question will likely find its answer in the coming weeks. This story is clearly not finished. That's all for today. If this was useful, subscribe and hit the bell. YouTube actively suppresses the reach of content like this in its recommendation algorithm, which means notifications are the only reliable way to make sure you don't miss new episodes. See you next time.